Hello everyone and welcome back to another modelled writing video. This time we're going to look at two task 1 questions, and as always we will think about the question, what it's asking from us, generate ideas and write a plan, and then do the write-up as if we were in the real exam. So if you've booked your IELTS test, then this is great practice for you. If you are wanting some more information about how to answer task 1 type questions and you weren't sure about how to get those top bands, then you've come to the right place. We will talk through everything today, and hopefully by the end you'll be confident to answer these types of questions that we're going to look at. Okay, so let's get started then. We'll dive into the first question, which is all about pie charts, a popular type of question in task 1. Okay, and this S here suggests there's more than one pie chart, so perhaps 2. Okay, let's look at the question together. The pie charts below give information about world population in 1900 and 2000. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Okay, let's think about this. So the pie charts, maybe more than one. We're sure that it's more than one, maybe 2. Below, give information about world population. World population. So how many people are in the world in 1900 and 2000? So here we can think, there are probably more than likely 2 pie charts for these 2 years. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Okay, where relevant. So the question doesn't want us to compare everything, just where it's particularly striking or interesting. Okay, so we've got a bit more information about the question here. We're thinking about it. I think we're ready to see the data itself. Okay, here are the pie charts. So on the right, I can do a spotlight. We have the 1900 pie charts. 1.6 billion in 1900, 1.6 billion people. So initial thoughts then. Asia, the Asia category is the largest share by far, 60%, followed by Europe, 25%. Big gap there between those two. And the other categories are that have a lot less of the share, so they're smaller with their proportions here. So we have North America, Africa, Latin America, and others. Okay, so those are my initial thoughts on the 1900 pie charts. Let's look now at the 2000 pie chart. 6 billion people. And the Asia category, this time it's called Asia Pacific, is 54%. So it's decreased from 1900. However, it is still the highest proportion of population. It has the biggest number of people under this category. Followed again by Europe. So it's following the same trend here. We're making comparisons. Following the same trend. But again, Europe has decreased 25% to 14%. So it's a drop as well. Okay. Now we are looking at the other categories, which actually comprise of there are a larger proportion of this whole pie chart this time. And North America has stayed the same. Let's have a look, 5%. Others has stayed the same, 3%. But Latin America and the Caribbean increased. Africa increased. And there's a new category, Middle East and North Africa here. Should be an R. But that's okay. Lovely. So, okay. Interesting thoughts. I'm thinking about categories that have decreased, perhaps stayed the same or plateaued, and increased as well their share. Okay, so let's have a think now, and we can put this all together in our plan. So plans are so important to keep on track in the IELTS exam. You want to be able to make your points clearly and concisely, and a plan is essential for that. Okay, so group 1 then. I think I'm going to talk about Asia and Europe, as they follow this same pattern of the fact that they decrease. Oh, let me spell that right. Spelling is also very important in the exam. You'll be critiqued on that. So decrease. So groups that have decreased. We've got Asia and we've got Europe. Perhaps in this group, I might want to talk about categories that have stayed the same. So, in other words, another word for stay the same is categories that have plateaued. We'll put decreased, plateaued. And let's think about, we have North America and others. Now, we don't know what others consists of, what it comprises of, and it's not our place to think what that could be. We're not commenting on that. We are simply commenting on the features of the pie charts and the statistics and things like that. We're not focusing on why or how or ideas. So we will stay on task with that. Okay, so group 1, like that so far. We've got categories that have decreased and categories that have plateaued. Okay, perhaps we can go to paragraph 2 and we can talk about categories that have increased, such as Africa, Latin America, and perhaps we can talk about a new group being the Middle East and North Africa. Middle East and North Africa. Okay, so another important task to do in this type of question is to write an overview. So we can write notes here. It doesn't have to be full sentences. Population increased, however, from 1900 to 2000. However, Asia and Europe's share, Asia and Europe decreased. That's what we're going to basically talk about, among other things here. So population increased, Asia and Europe their share decreased. Okay, I think we've got a very detailed plan and we want to stick with our timings here. So we've got to make sure that we are on track and we're not taking up too much time. So I think we should go to the write-up as we would in the exam once we've done our plan. And here to help us today, we've of course got the question, we've got the data, and we've got a nice addition here. So you can talk about groups that have increased, but we've got synonyms here. So we don't want to repeat ourselves because that will not impress the examiners. We want to use words that are different and a bit more high level as well. So we've got a variety of words for increased, stayed the same, sorry, decreased, stayed the same, increased, and the adverbs to go together with the verbs to make a really nice sentences for our write-up. Okay, so I think we are ready to have a go at this. Right. So how are we going to start the question? How do we start this task 1? Well, another important skill is to paraphrase. So we want to basically write the question, but in our own words. Okay, so it starts the pie charts. Well, we don't want to paraphrase so much that it becomes inaccurate. So I think it's okay to start with the pie charts because that's exactly what they are. If the question said the charts below, then we can of course add in pie charts, but the question it says it already. So that's okay. The pie charts below give information about world population. Oh, how else could we say that? Maybe illustrates, which means show the entire population in the years 1900 and 2000. I think that's good. And we can also add that it's not only states that kind of information about world population, but it shows the proportions and the percentages basically in each category. So perhaps we could say it additionally provides data on the percentage of the population in different categories. Okay, I think that's good there. Lovely. Let's read it back. The pie charts illustrate the entire population in the years 1900 and 2000. It additionally provides data on the percentage of the population in different categories. Brilliant. With paraphrasing, we're writing about what the data shows us. Okay, so let's now go into our overview. So for our overview, we want to state the general trends that we are seeing. We're not stating, we're not going into numbers here or specifics, just the overview really. So we can start it maybe on the whole. I'm going to start today with in general. In both pie charts, and we're referring to our notes here that we will have. They're on the previous slide, but you'll have them there in the exam. In both pie charts, Asia and Europe, made up, another word for made up, constituted the biggest percentage of, it's tricky too. We thought of percentage of people on Earth, maybe. For we don't want to always repeat world population. The entire population, people on Earth, perhaps. There we go. The biggest percentage of people on Earth. That being said, so in other words, now we want to talk about the trend that they were, even though they're still the biggest proportions in 2000, they have actually decreased in their share. So that being said, Asia's proportion decreased. Now, how could we describe the decrease? It's by, it's not too dramatic, so maybe we can say slightly over the 100 years, as well as Europe's. Ooh, and we're always thinking about spelling. And then perhaps we can add a line to shed light on the other aspects of the pie chart. So we could say, on the other hand, Africa's population share increased in 2000 from 1900. Okay, so let's read this back. In general, in both pie charts, Asia and Europe constituted the biggest percentage of people on Earth. That being said, Asia's proportion decreased slightly over the 100 years, as well as Europe's. On the other hand, Africa's population share increased in 2000 from 1900. Okay, slightly long, but that's okay. We've got the general trends that we are seeing, and we've shed light on other parts, such as categories that have increased as well. Right, let's dive in now, and we'll use some numbers from the charts to support our statements here. So let's start. We wanted to start with the trend of that have decreased. Asia and Europe have decreased. So let's dive in. In 1900, Asia's population comprised, another word for made up, comprised 60% of the total. Full stop. Now we can talk about it dropping. So while still holding the largest, we can say proportion, we've used proportion, maybe share, that's a good word, the largest share, while still holding the largest share, this figure did drop 6%. It's quite significant. We could say maybe fairly significantly, by 6% in 2000. Okay. Now let's talk about Europe following the same trend. So the second largest portion of the population. It's hard to find synonyms always for that word. Is Europe. In both sets of data. We could say following the same trend as Asia. So we're comparing now between the two. Europe started at 25% in 1900 and fell, we're using these words here, and fell to 14% in 2000. Okay, so we've described the trend, the decreased, the groups that have decreased. Now we want to mention the groups that have plateaued. We could start that by saying, however, some groups plateaued. Really important to get this spelling right here. It's a tricky word. Some groups plateaued, including North America, and I really like a bracket sometimes, 5%, and others, 3%. Okay, everyone, let's read that back. So, in 1900, Asia's population comprised 60% of the total. While still holding the largest share, this figure did drop fairly significantly by 6% in 2000. The second largest portion of the population is Europe in both sets of data, following the same trend as Asia. Europe started at 25% in 1900 and fell to 14% in 2000. However, some groups plateaued, including North America, 5%, and others, 3%. Okay, we've done the groups that have decreased, the groups that have plateaued. Now let's dive into the groups that have increased. So let's think. We could say something like in contrast, or some groups followed a different trend. Or we've used groups. Some categories have we used followed a different trend. Some categories followed a different trend and experienced a rise in percentage. Africa initially held or constituted, held 4% in 1900, and in 2000 this, let's think of another word, maybe surged to 10%. Oh, full stop. Likewise, Latin America stood at 3% in 1900. In 2000, this grew to 8%. 8%. Okay. I've just realized we can probably mention we should probably mention the amount of people in the world at these different points. This is we can just quickly add this on. So in 1900, maybe when the population was 1.6 billion, Asia comprised 60% of the total. By 2000, when the population, when the number of people had rocketed to 6 billion. So just adding in the amount of people in the world there. Okay, so let's have a think. Shall we add on we can do a quick line just to mention the new group here. In addition, in 2000, there is also a new group Middle East and North Africa. And we can put a brackets again. That's really nice. 6%. Lovely. Let's have a read. So some categories followed a different trend and experienced a rise in percentage. Africa held 4% in 1900, and in 2000 this surged to 10%. Likewise, Latin America stood at 3% in 1900. In 2000, this grew to 8%. In addition, in 2000, there is also a new group, Middle East and North Africa. Okay, so let's have a look over, and we've tried to not repeat ourselves so much. We've made logical groups. We've used high-level language. We have used a variety of sentence types, simple, complex, compound, and reported and selected the main features here. Okay, I think this is a brilliant task 1. So now what we can do is we'll just find out how many words this is. Okay, so that word count comes to 209. So quite a long essay there. We're looking for a minimum of 150 words. But anyway, this provides a great template for you to use and gives you an idea of what the examiners are looking for a question to do with pie charts. So hopefully you are confident with that now, a bit more confident anyway. And yeah, it's really, as long as you've got your groups, logical structure, using some of this language here, and reporting back the main features and comparing, I think that's a great structure to use. Okay. So let's dive in now to the next topic, the next type of question that you might get in a task 1, and that is going to be a map for this question. So sometimes you get more than one map, but today we are just looking at the one. Okay. So the question is as follows. The map below is of the town of Galston. A new supermarket, S, is planned for the town. The map shows 2 possible sites for the supermarket. Summarize the information by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Okay, let's dive in a bit deeper. So the map is of a town called Galston. A new supermarket. We can call that S, refer to that, is planned for the town. The map shows 2 possible sites for the supermarket. So we've got one map, but we are going to look at 2 possible sites. So we're going to compare the sites and report back the features for the supermarket. So summarize the information, and again we're being told how to do this by selecting and reporting the main features and make comparisons where relevant. So just like with the question we've just looked at, we are not going to compare absolutely everything. We're just going to pick the main points and go from there, really. We don't have time to compare the whole thing. But that's okay. We'll have a look at the map now and think about our initial thoughts. Okay, here is the map. So Galston, population 65,000. We have a nice key up here to tell us a bit more about the map. So, we can see our S1, which is site 1, and S2. So these are the 2 possible sites we've got here. Okay, so initial thoughts. We've got S1, which is surrounded by the countryside. We can think about our directions here. Here's a bit of a clue. So surrounded by countryside on all sides, in all directions. We've got transport. What have we got here? We've got main road running through out of the industry area. So that's ideal for the industry residents to maybe access the supermarket, the new supermarket. And we've got the railway here, so we can definitely talk about transport for site 1. Okay, on the flip side, site 2 is the centre of town. Okay, no traffic zone, so that's a point. We've got no cars in this area, no lorries, no motorbikes, no traffic zone. Okay, perhaps push bikes. Yeah, I'm sure push bikes. But yes, perhaps little motorbikes actually. But this is a point to think about when comparing the transport. Although we have got a railway that runs through to the north of the site and out near to the town of Cranston, which is 25 kilometres, quite a big town, 29,000. So that might be a link there. So it's actually closer for the people of the residents of Cranston. If they're coming from this way, they might want to stop off there rather than go up to site 1. So we can think about that as well. And on the flip side, Hindon residents might want to stop off at site 1. Okay, so lots to think about here. We've got the industry areas, which is quite large, the industry, and the housing areas as well, north and south. So we'll talk about those in relation to the sites as well. Okay, I think we're ready to think about our plan. We know how important our planning stage is. So we want to make our essay as straightforward for us to go into as much detail as possible here. So for ease, I'm going to go with my instinct and to do group 1 as site 1. And I'm going to talk about the countryside. I'm going to talk about the transport. And I might talk about the town of Hindon in conjunction with that. And perhaps with transport as well, I might talk about the main road. Let's add that in. Oh, main road. And that will be useful for the industry areas. And perhaps the industry and perhaps the north housing area as well. They could use that main road there, so that will be closer and easier. Okay, rather than walking all the way to site 2 there. Right, so brilliant. Let's move on now to group 2, which will be site 2. And we're going to talk about the fact that it's in the town centre, so more of a central location. We're going to talk about the railway that runs through and the town of Cranston. We're also going to mention the southern housing area and the industry. It's closer to some of the industry we can always mention as well. Industry. Okay, so our overview then. In general, we just want to make a few notes. S1 has more countryside. I can make this a little bit bigger perhaps. S1 has more countryside and transport links. However, S2 is, we can say perhaps more central, and closer to housing, perhaps southern housing. Okay, brilliant. So we've got some notes here, we've got our ideas, our plans coming together quite nicely. So I think now we can head to the write-up. Okay, so we've got the question again, and we've also got this nice vocabulary, which is related to a map question in task 1. So if we can think about these kinds of words, synonyms for addition, removed, changed, expanded, things like that, and lovely words for that. So that's just to help us. Obviously you won't have that in the exam, but for our purposes today, it's quite nice to refer to that. Lovely. Okay, let's get started. And the first thing we want to do is paraphrase. Rewrite the question in our own words. Okay, so let's have a think. The map below is of the town of Galston. The map or the perhaps picture, the image. The image provides, or the data. This is a interesting word. The outline, like a map really. The outline provides information about the area of Galston. We'll make sure we'll spell that correctly. Of Galston. The outline provides, or maybe the image. Let's do the image. Provides information about the area of Galston. A new supermarket is planned for the town. Ooh. How about there is a construction about to happen or take place. About to take place. The map shows 2 possible sites. We could say, and there are 2 possible perhaps placements, areas. Okay, the image provides information about the area of Galston. There is a construction about to take place, and there are 2 possible placements. Lovely, we've paraphrased perfectly there, I think. Okay, now it's time for our overview. So we won't go into detail, but we'll just say a general statement about what we're going to mention later on. Overall, on the whole, I'm going to use generally speaking. Generally speaking, S1 has considerably, and you can refer to your plan, of course, for this. It's on the previous slide, but you'll have it there in the exam. More countryside and transport links than S2. On the other hand, S2 is more central and closer to the southern housing district area. We've used area. Maybe complex is quite nice. Generally speaking, S1 has considerably more countryside and transport links than S2. On the other hand, S2 is more central and closer to the southern housing complex. Okay, sounds good. So we need to we need to dive in then to our first paragraph about S1. Okay, S1. So, let's have a think. If S1 was to be redeveloped, or not redeveloped, maybe developed into a supermarket, and we'll use that S there, it would be surrounded by countryside in all directions. So all around, we can use our directions. So yes, from all sides there. Okay. So that's point number one. Let's move on to the transport then. So we can say with a railway and a main road running nearby. With a railway and main road running nearby on either side of site 1. There is more accessibility, perhaps. There is more, maybe not accessibility, maybe we'll take that away. Let's have a think. So with a railway and a main road running nearby on either side of S1, this provides, we could say more accessibility, more vehicle accessibility. That's only relating to the main road. Well, it's still, the point still stands because there's no main road by site 2. This provides more accessibility with vehicles than, maybe we'll just leave that here. With a railway road and a main road running nearby on either side of S1, this provides more accessibility with vehicles. Okay. Moreover, the town of Hindon, we want to talk about them coming on, the residents potentially coming via the railway. The town of Hindon, we can use brackets. I like a bracket. 12 kilometers northwest. Would stop near site 1 first. So the residents, the train perhaps coming in from Hindon would stop near S1 first. So the residents are more likely to visit the supermarket at site 1. Okay, let's have a reread. If S1 was to be developed into a supermarket, it would be surrounded by countryside in all directions, with a railway and a main road running nearby on either side of S1. This provides more accessibility with vehicles. Or we could say perhaps more vehicle accessibility. That sounds a bit nicer. More vehicle accessibility. Moreover, the train coming in from Hindon, 12 kilometers northwest, would stop near S1 first. So the residents are more likely to visit the supermarket at S1 as it is closer. Okay, I think that's good. We've described S1, we've used a specific language, We've compared it to S2. Okay, let's dive into S2 then. So on the flip side, on the other hand, S2 is not near countryside at all. So let's make that difference and let's use this nice phrase, in stark contrast. I like that. S2 is not near the countryside at all. Maybe not at all. Near the countryside, but almost in the center of town, which is another word for a no traffic zone. You could say pedestrianized. And we're going to try and make sure to spell that right. Pedestrianized. There we go. That's a great word. So we want to talk about, even though it's pedestrianized, we want to talk about the fact that it has the railway still. So even though modes of transport are restricted, there is the railway, perhaps the railway running through to the north of the site, connects site to perhaps industry areas and the town of Cranston, 25 kilometers or south east. Making sure our directions are okay. Cranston, yeah. Okay, lovely. So then we want to just mention this southern housing complex. Additionally, S2 is closer to the southern housing area. And most of the industry area surrounding the town centre. Okay, should we have a read of this back? In stark contrast, S2 is not near the countryside, but almost in the centre of town, which is pedestrianised. Even though modes of transport are restricted, the railway running through to the north of the site connects S2 to industry areas and the town of Cranston, 25 kilometres southeast. Additionally, S2 is closer to the southern housing area and most of the industry area surrounding the town centre. Okay. I'm just going to maybe change. I'm just thinking about this paragraph. So it's not our job to sort of comment on things outside of the map, really. So we can maybe change this. Moreover, the train coming in from Hindon would stop near S1 first before S2. Maybe we can leave it at that, make it more specific to the map. Okay, brilliant. Well, now it is time to count the words. So we'll see how we've done here. Okay, so that word count comes to around 175 to my calculations. So minimum of 150, I think that's good, with 175. So let's go over, we've got our paraphrasing, our overview, and then we dive into our two different groups of S1 and S2, using some key language here about the directions and any changes in the map and the sites. We've compared between the two sites. We have picked the key information. I think we've done a great job there. Brilliant. Well, that rounds us off for today. So hopefully that has helped you with task 1, given you some ideas, given you some guidance about how to reach those top marks. So hopefully you've enjoyed today, and we've got other videos as well for you to check out. And if you have any questions, let us know. We love to hear from you. Okay, thank you. See you next time.